Hey, it is Greg Milby, Kentucky's Heartland at Kentucky'sHeartland.com, sharing the stories and the people and the events powering the Heartland. With me today is my friend, most importantly, but also Judge Kimberly Shumate. Glad to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And I'm excited to talk about a program which is celebrating its 20th year. And I didn't understand what the program was all about, and so I'm so glad you're in here today to talk a little bit about it. So Teen Court. I thought Teen Court was just teenagers that got together, and you had a judge, you had a prosecutor, you had a defendant, and they worked through cases that were mock trials. That is not what Teen Court is.
Oh, no. I don't have time for pretend. This is not a game. This is not pretend. These are real cases, real juveniles in our community who found themselves in a situation where they've been, brought to bear with charges. And then we use this particular teen court system to get an appropriate resolution outcome. So these are actual live cases that are handled by local high school volunteers that we train.
So is there a judge in the case?
That would be me.
So you are still the judge?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a prosecutor and a defender?
Teen prosecutors, teen defense counsel, teen juries, teen bailiffs, teen clerks, and of course the defendant.
So, and it's a real case?
Yep.
So what type of juvenile charges are we talking about here?
Everything but the most serious felonies. So a lot of times we'll have assault cases, whether it's out in the community or in a school setting or in a home setting. We'll have theft cases, whether it's in a big box store or whether it's from the gym. We'll have charges, unfortunately drug charges exist in our community, and so we allow teens to handle those charges with each other. So marijuana charges or other drug charges. Anything that involves harassment that in some context and socially you might call it bullying, but if it rises to the level of a criminal offense and harassment or harassment with physical contact but not as strong as a fight or an assault, then those are kinds of things that we do. Yeah, you name it. Criminal trespass, alcohol intoxication, possession of tobacco by a minor. If you can get in trouble for it, you can come to teen court for it.
So we're in the 20th year of Teen Court here in Hardin County. How did this come about? I mean, where did this idea come from to allow teenagers to prosecute or defend their fellow teenagers?
Well, basically, the concept comes from the whole idea of peer pressure and having a jury of your peers. When you meld those two together with teens, you can have an old lady in a black robe say, "Don't do that." That is not the same thing as having other teens your age say, that's really not a good choice for you and your life. And that teen peer pressure is really important. So it's really an international compilation. It's not something that we only do in Kentucky or the United States. And so sometimes I call them youth courts or tribunal courts or teen courts. And you can search them on the internet. They're everywhere. And Kentucky's had them for about 25 years. And when I came to be a judge just over 20 years ago, one of the folks from the Administrative Office of the Courts in Frankfort came and said, we want to start teen court in Hardin County. We've been looking for a judge that wants to do that. And so, of course, they pick you when you very first start a brand new job. So it took a few months for it to get kind of off the ground and get started. But they come in from Frankfort and have a program that's set up so that any county that wants to be a part, if you can get a judge to volunteer and get the local community on board, you can start one. So there's usually anywhere from 25 to 30 of our 120 counties that'll do it across the state on any given year. And we like to think in Hardin County that we are the best. I mean, we are.
Well, I'd
so
say
that's
so.
how we
Most
think
definitely
that.
we're the best.
But anyway, we've had a good, continual, strong program for the last 20 years. And that's a record. I mean, there's a couple other counties that do well, but we think we're the best.
And you have quite a few teenagers that participate.
Oh, yes.
So when they sign up for this, and you're involved with these cases, that's got to be awkward if it's a classmate or something. How do they deal with that? Have you ever had any issues with some intimidation or anything like that? Or does that work out in teen court's favor because it is somebody of their age?
When I ask the teens those questions, because I want to know that the teens who volunteer with me, the high school students that come and volunteer, I want to know that not only do they enjoy what they're doing, are they learning, but are they comfortable? Right? I don't want awkward settings, and I certainly don't want unhealthy settings. And so we'll ask those questions regularly. When you go back to a student that was at your school, whether you prosecuted them or whether you defended them, what does that do when you see them in the hallway, when you find them in math class, when you eat lunch next to them? And they will generally tell me that for the most part, they will have conversations they wouldn't have had before, because now they have something in common. They do not talk about teen court at school with that particular client defendant because it's confidential. We can't let them know. So we don't even let anyone know that you've been to teen court unless you as a defendant care to share that with someone. But that doesn't mean you don't know the faces that were working with you, prosecuting you, or defending you. But the volunteers have told me more than once that they've created good relationships with those individuals, especially if they were their defense attorney.
Oh, yeah.
But the prosecutors will say that they'll have that student will come up to them later and just say, hey, how are you doing? Just wanted you to know I'm doing really great. You don't say, and because you defended me at teen court or because you prosecuted me in teen court, I want you to know this. They just carry on because they've created a relationship. And sometimes the defendant that's involved has been in perhaps not the best associates, they haven't chosen the best peers to be around. But once they've been to teen court, and there are 100 students that might be there on a teen court night, the kids that are doing well across all of our high schools. And all of a sudden when they go back to school, they have a familiar face, a friendly face in a different crowd. And it can give them the chance to kind of break through and know someone else and not just choose the folks that we're getting. Exactly. And because we both know that if you surround yourself with folks who are making poor choices, it's easy to make poor choices. And if you surround yourself with students who make good choices, it's easier to make good choices. And sometimes just having been in that program and seeing a familiar face that's making good choices gives them the courage to stand up and make good choices the next time. And that's what the teens tell me, that it's usually not awkward, but it usually does open up a new insight that perhaps they wouldn't have had before on both sides.
So it's an open program for people to sign up to be a part of. Are you seeing kids that want to be in law enforcement or kids that want to go to law school that are part of this? What makes a teenager want to sign up for this program?
Usually it means that you want to make a difference in your community. It's not necessarily for career exploration, I want to be in some kind of law field. There's always a small group that are doing it because they want to get a feel for being inside a courtroom. And I encourage especially the ones that want to be in any kind of law enforcement or law degree, paralegal services, social services. I always encourage them, do this to find out if it's something you might be interested in. But really, it's more about, I want to make a difference in the lives of teens. You get community service hours, so if you're trying to bank community service hours, it's a service to your community. You have the chance to do public speaking. Now, many times that's the parents that are wanting their students to do the public speaking, and the students may be a little less excited about that, but it makes you comfortable, perhaps in a way you haven't had a chance to exercise that before. But it's really just being around other students who care about their community and who care about the state of what juveniles are into, what are the other teenagers into in this community, and they just want to make a difference. They're good students, I'm telling you.
And that's exciting to see kids that want to make a difference in their community. Now, when a case comes in, how much of a decision are they, or how much of an influence are they making in the decision? You're still the judge, and you know the case. Are some of them changing your mind in a case? I mean, or do you pretty much have an idea where you're going to go when you come in?
I don't make those decisions. A jury of teenagers makes those decisions.
So you just oversee.
I'm playing referee as a judge. What I'm doing is making sure that they're in bounds within the law. They don't do something that's beyond what can be done in the law for that sentence. And otherwise, it's their decision. We call it creative sentencing. And trust me, teenagers are much more creative than adults are.
So it's not your standard, okay, you're convicted of shoplifting, so we're going to you've got to spend a day in jail. They can't do that, but they can make you do 20 push-ups? Can they get that creative? I mean, that's very creative. I make my kids do push-ups for pretty much everything. So, so I should have really big kids before too long. So they can get creative on the sentence.
Oh, yes. And I expect them to. One of my favorite stories about sentencing, it's old, and when I tell you the story, you'll figure out how old it is because it deals with a Walkman. So there'll be those who won't have a clue what we're talking about.
We'll have to show a picture of a Walkman.
What are those? But basically, there was a school setting, and there was a student who had gotten on a bus after school, and another person who was already on the bus had a Walkman laid on a seat. And the student saw it and took it, stole the Walkman on a school bus. And obviously, it's a school bus. Somebody's going to see something. Somebody's going to report something. And so they got in trouble for stealing the Walkman. Well, that case ended up winding its way through and coming to teen court for sentencing. So basically, you admit you've done something like, I took the Walkman, I knew I shouldn't, and you come to teen court for your sentencing. So we're not trying guilt or innocence, did it happen or not. We're trying what are consequences for people who admit that they've done something wrong. So we're doing the sentencing in teen court. And, you think about things like, okay, did the property get returned, or do we need to pay somebody for the property? And should they do community service or write a paper or something? That's typical kind of, you want them to think about their actions and learn from their actions, right? So we get to teen court, and amongst those kinds of things, including community service and making sure the property was returned, the teen court jury decides that they're going to require that this student sit in the front seat of the bus for the rest of the school year. Now, I wouldn't have thought about that, but here's what they told me. They said, we want to know that every time that student walks up the step of the bus and looks left to the back of the bus where they always sat, because the cool kids sat in the back. I guess they still do. They did when I was in school.
Yeah, so I was always in the front.
That would be me. So they sat in the back. They said they look at the back of the bus and realize, I have to sit behind the driver because I have consequences. Had I made a better choice, I could have sat where I wanted. But now every time I walk up those steps and look left, I have to sit behind the driver, and I'll consciously remember I need to make good choices about my actions and what I do. I would never have thought, let's sit behind the driver on the bus as a consequence. But those teens were confident that that would every single day make an impression about how important it is to make good choices. And
Makes
so
all the sense.
Talk about creative. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not harsh. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's constantly making you and reinforcing that thought process that I need to do something differently.
Huh. So how does this help court? Does it help the docket? Does it reduce the amount of time that you're on these cases because you are pushing them to teen court, where you don't have to do that sentencing? I think it's very creative. Does it help in any way?
It doesn't help me in my docket at all.
It really kind of slows you probably down.
Yeah. These are cases that most of them would go through at the very beginning of a court process. There's a petition filed. Perhaps it's by an officer of the law, perhaps it's by someone at school, or it's a neighborhood parent because there was a fight or something. It goes into the court designated worker, the CDW. And there's a diversion opportunity in Kentucky that's always preferred. And so at CDW, teen court is one of those diversion opportunities. So 9 times out of 10, I would never have seen this case to begin with on my docket. And if I had, my personal time might have been less than half an hour. So instead, I'm going to train all these Thursday nights to get ready, and then that particular case may take an hour or more on a Thursday night, and personally, I would have seen none of it. Okay. So it's not helping me at all.
Right. Okay.
But it's helping the system, and that's what's more important.
Yeah, because, I mean, hopefully you're eliminating these kids in the system.
Yes, because if you complete your diversion as a teen court defendant, it stays in that court designated worker level. You don't have a court record at all. It doesn't come to the official clerk of courts at all. It stays in that diversion level. So if somebody comes and wants to say, little Johnny wants to go in the military, and so the recruiter comes to the actual court clerk and says to the juvenile clerk, I want to see little Johnny's record. And the clerk says, I'm so sorry, I can neither admit or deny that little Johnny has a record. All juvenile courts are confidential. And he says, I forgot to tell you, little Johnny signed, and he says I can see his records, including juvenile. And the clerk goes, wait just a minute. Let me give you little Johnny's file, okay? And so you can share official juvenile records. Well, if you stayed at the court designated worker level and you did a teen court case, when the recruiter comes in and says, can I see little Johnny's file? The clerk says, I don't have one. Because he stayed at the diversion level and did teen court, so there's not a file for anybody to see.
So mistakes that kids make can be righted.
Yeah.
In their own
You get to
lives.
be a kid, and
That's
you get
good.
to learn from your mistakes, and they don't have to haunt you into your adult life.
I think this is just an absolutely fabulous program. So let's get to the next point. So hopefully parents that are watching, or parents and kids that are listening to this podcast, one, how do they get signed up to be a part of the program?
Show up.
That's important.
That's it. Show up. We'll have an open house on Thursday, August the 22nd at 6:30. We use the Court of Justice, the new courthouse, not the old historic courthouse in the middle of the square, but the new Justice Center. And teens take over the courthouse on Thursdays. So starting August 22nd, we'll do an open house. And that's come in at 6:30. Our former students are going to come in and do a mock trial, pretend, fly on the wall. If we were going to come to teen court, what might it look like? So we'll do a fly on the wall kind of thing. Not like, you know what I'm saying. We're going to pretend a trial for you.
Right.
And then we'll have students that'll do question and answers, and you get to meet some former students. So that's just the what is it, what's going on open house. It's not a come and go. It really is come at 6:30 and watch the program. And then starting the next week on August 29 is when we actually train for teen court. And we train on Thursday nights in the courthouse.
Okay.
Now, you have to train all 6 weeks. and they'll get all done before fall break. However, I was a mom of high school students who were so active. Band and soccer and basketball and cheerleading and Rainbow Girls and D-Malay Boys and church youth group. And Thursdays are busy days. I mean, you know, you run cross country, you do some soccer game, you have softball, you play golf. So we actually tape our trainings, and we have a private YouTube channel. So that if you're busy 2 of those Thursdays for those 6 weeks, or you're busy all 6 of them because you have band practice on Thursday nights late, because that just tends to be the one, then you go watch the YouTube channel and know that you've done your training by video, and then by the time band competitions are done, the rest of the school year, you're there on courthouse nights to do the trial work. So we work really hard to make sure you can show up, but it doesn't have to be the Thursday night. You can do it makeup on video, so you can use the rest of the school year and be a part.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to attend all year after that?
No. Once you've done the mandatory training, you're a member of Teen Court, and then it just depends on what your schedule is. You may have basketball season, you can't do any for these 4 weeks, or you may have all-state choir on that Thursday night, or you may have a chem test on Friday morning, and you don't need to be in the courthouse Thursday night. You need to be home hitting the books. So once you've trained, then you decide which nights are appropriate for you to be there. Now, if you take on a role as a prosecutor, you better be there. But if you haven't committed, then you're just there whatever days you can. On those Thursdays you can.
So parents, can parents come and watch anytime, or once we get into the serious business of teen court, parents, you're not invited?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The defendant's parents must be there. There must be a defendant parent, because it's a court proceeding. It's a juvenile who'll be held accountable. So their parent must be there. My volunteers, the ones that are the attorneys, the bailiffs, the clerks, the jury, those volunteers, then those parents can only come if they've also done all 6 weeks of training at the beginning of the year with us and been sworn to confidentiality. Because I have to know that they're not going to share this business anywhere else, because it's confidential court.
So the parents could do the training as well?
Yes, and I use them, we call them the traffic cop. I mean, I use them, if you think about it, I have one judge, and I generally have almost 100 high school students. I cannot manage 100 people in that courthouse, right? I've got to have eyes and ears and traffic cops. So those parents come in and help me manage just student flow. Everybody stays on this floor. You can't go upstairs. Everybody needs to be in this courtroom or that courtroom, or, you know, we have questions here, or just keeping eyes on students there. So those parents are parent volunteers. So some parents will come and be part of the actual parent volunteer, where they do all the training and get sworn in. They can watch anybody's case all year. Some parents just want to be part of the booster club, and that means that if we have a social event, they'll agree to bring something, or they'll help organize an event. They just want to be part of the booster club, come and go, you know, be on a phone tree kind of thing. And then some parents are just the precious ones who say, I promise I'll get you there, and that's all I'm going to do. And they're just the supportive parent that says, yes, you can do it, and I'll make sure you get there.
So I think that's fabulous. That you know, parents can be involved if they want to, but they're committed if they're going to be involved too. So you mentioned boosters and that. What does this cost? Does it cost the kids anything? Cost the parents anything?
No. The program is absolutely free. Our materials are printed through the court system. We hand out materials that are printed, and otherwise it is a free program. You do not have to pay anything. Now, if you want to, we'll do a t-shirt fundraiser, and you want to pay $7.50 and get yourself a t-shirt, go for it, but you don't have to. On the court nights, we expect you to be dressed in what we consider to be business professional. So for some people, it means you've got to buy a belt and a pair of dress shoes, or a shirt with a collar, because you're not going to come in athletic shorts and a t-shirt, because that's not professional. So one of the things we teach is professional dress as well as professional decorum. And so with that expectation, you might have to buy or borrow something. But we also do a really good job of telling you when JCPenney's has the men's suit sale, or when Bargain Hunt has got their, you know, collared shirts on sale, or when we go down to the ECTC and they have the College and Career Center and they have the Dress for Success program. They'll let our students go in and get an outfit for Dress for Success at no cost. Or, you know, we shop Goodwill to Rhodes. It doesn't matter. Once you put on something and look sharp, you can buy one, as I tell the gals, you can buy one black skirt, one pair of black flants, and one white collared blouse, and wear it every single time to Teen Court, and no one is going to notice. Whatever you wear, as long as you look professional, it's not going to be. So the only thing that could be a cost could be
It's just
some
clothes.
part of attire. But I've yet to have a parent to say, I'm so disappointed I have to buy my son a pair of dress shoes.
Yeah.
They're always willing to buy a collared shirt and a belt. They're just willing. Yeah.
I bet. So
Yeah.
what type of time is committed to this for the teenager?
Okay. If you are going to be involved at the minimal level, that means you're going to train for 6 weeks from 6 o'clock to 8:30 for 6 Thursdays in a row, or make them up. And then you're going to decide after that, twice a month we have teen court on Thursdays from 6 o'clock to 8:30. So after you train those first 6 Thursdays, it's 2 nights a month at the max. Now, if you want to be involved in the social events, so we usually have one every month or 6 weeks, come out and do a social event, you can do that. If you want to be a part of the League of Justice that plans those committee meetings and does that work, then you can, put those extra things on yourself. So my executive team of teenagers give every Thursday through the school year because they're either at teen court cases, a League of Justice executive meeting, another case night, or a full league meeting. So that's kind of like the student council of teen court, which is sort of the over and above.
So you're going to know you're going to be committed.
Yeah, if you want to.
One thing I didn't ask is the age range. We say teenagers, and that can vary a little bit. What's the age ranges for teen court?
For the volunteers, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors from any high school, homeschool, public school, private school, any high school. We go from Fort Knox to North Hardin and North Hardin Christian, John Hardin, Central Hardin, E-Town, Nelson County, LaRue County, homeschool, private school, Bethlehem. I mean, you name it,
So
we look
anybody.
at it. Yep. Now, if you have a sibling who's in the 8th grade and you are a high school participant, then the sibling in the 8th grade is allowed to come shadow. They can do all the training and they can watch all the cases, but I'm not ready yet for them to be sworn in and participate. Let's be honest. I mean, we use drug cases from high school and teen court. So if you haven't walked the halls of the high school or you're not at that age level, I am not ready to put a middle school student in a jury setting or a defense setting for someone else who's that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not
they're
that
not there yet.
It's not that I don't trust them to do the work intellectually, but there's just a certain level of maturity that I need to know that they've had a chance to develop to. Does that make sense?
That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
So-
and we have lots of students, so if I had added 8th graders in, there'd be less opportunity to
whole lot
perform.
more.
Yeah.
So now, did they audition, or they try out, or their names drawn to be a defender or to be a prosecutor? How does that work? Because if you've got 100 kids, not everybody can be the prosecutor or the defense counsel.
We self-select. You may decide once you train that, I really just want to be on the jury for the first few months because I just want a chance to be on the jury. We usually do up to 9 individuals on any given jury. Most case nights we have 2 to 4 cases. So I've got 9 jurors times 4 cases. And then I have 2 prosecutors and 2 defense attorneys. I let them do co-counsel so they feel confident in themselves.
Okay.
Usually have a returning student with a newer student paired up.
Do they get that information early?
Oh,
The
yeah, at
prosecutor?
least
Okay.
2 weeks in advance is the
Okay.
goal. The goal is at least 2 weeks in advance.
So they have homework.
We have to prepare.
That's right.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The neat thing, our local bar association, all of our paid practicing attorneys in Hardin County, the bar association, they are so supportive of this crew that we have the prosecutors ahead of time will meet with one of the prosecutors from either Jenny Oldham or Shane Young's office. And then the defense attorneys will meet with a local defense attorney who practices law to prep their case. So, I mean, it's a wonderful mentor relationship. And things that, if you took an hour of a local defense attorney's time, that's a lot of money that you would pay if you wanted to go and have an hour consultation. They do that for free as a service of the Bar Association to teen court. And so, you get to meet local defense attorneys, you get to meet local prosecutors and prepare your cases with them.
I think this is
professionals.
This is an amazing program. Now, can kids that are part of Beta Club or need community service hours maybe for college, does this count for any of that?
Yes, absolutely. Because you don't get paid to do it. You get no class credit to do it. So it is a service to your community. So yeah, absolutely. Every hour you spend in preparation or inside the courtroom or acting as a juror or a bailiff, if you are participating, those are community service hours. Governor's School, the GSP and GSA, when you do all those community service hours, you can rack up a lot of amazing beneficial hours for those resume building, as well as helping somebody else.
Those college applications really looks good on those too, I bet.
And there's a lot of students who say, I've got good grades, I've done some athletics, but when it comes to the part of those applications that says, what have you done in your community? For a lot of kids, that's blank on your college application. Teen Court is filling in that blank. I did this, I did this, I did this. Yeah.
That's good. Looks really good on those college applications, as I said. Okay, so we have the Teen Court Open House, Thursday, August the 22nd.
Yes. 6:30, show up. Now that one, I'm not worried whether you came straight from soccer practice and just please don't wear your cleats, but otherwise I don't care what you look like, you're just coming to listen. So for open house, show up. Bring a parent with you, especially if your parent's not going to participate. It may be the only chance they get to figure out what Teen Court looks like. So bring a parent, bring a friend, just come listen for an hour or so.
And it's good. So if a kid is maybe kind of on the fence, if they want to be a part of it, or parents on the fence, if they want their kid to be a part of it, this is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So
What is
Hardin
it
County
now?
Justice Center, not the old courthouse.
Yes.
It's the Justice Center, the
Yes.
one with all the glass on the front of it.
Yes, that one.
6:30 to 8:30 on the 22nd of August. And if people have more questions, at the bottom of this video at kentuckysheartland.com, there's some contact information there. You can find it all right there. And if you're listening to this podcast, go to kentuckysheartland.com. Just click on the Hardin County Teen Court video, and one, you can watch it because we're pretty.
Maybe you are.
And then you can find all that information at the bottom of the page. Judge Shumate, thank you for the time.
Cool.
I appreciate
Very
it.
glad. Thanks for giving us a chance to spread the word. Every year somebody says, I never knew we had Teen Court. And every opportunity we have to share that is important to me because these kids, when they come together, they're just the most amazing young people in our community. And you get to meet someone you might not have met from another school that has some of those same ideas. And I really appreciate your letting us spread the word.
I'm ashamed that of the years that I've been in this community, I've known about Teen Court, and I thought I knew what Teen Court was, but I was completely wrong. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and as a community storyteller, it's been an honor to be able to share what great work you guys are doing. So I appreciate that. Happy 20th anniversary to Teen Court. And again, on the 22nd, you got to get out there and check it out. Parents, this is definitely something your kids need to be a part of. She's Judge Kimberly Shumate, also my friend. I'm Greg Milby, community storyteller, and this is Kentucky's Heartland.